There was a time when a comedian could walk onto a talk show and tell the truth about the most powerful people in the world. And nobody did this better than Norm Macdonald. When he went on The View, they asked him about the presidential election, and within seconds, he called Bill Clinton a murderer on live television.
I think we should get the homicide out of the White House and get like a fresh start, because we don't want any more murderers.
The host immediately scrambled to shut him down.
Yeah, you know, we're not allowed to, you're not allowed to put out accusations without.
That's a little too far.
That's the way it does work.
Let's just go on to the next question.
Norm just keeps going. So Barbara Walters, one of the most powerful women in American media at the time, threatened him on air.
I'll tell you what's a matter of record. You will not be invited back if you don't shut up.
He still wouldn't let it go. He tried to sneak in manslaughter as a compromise.
Let's talk football.
All right, manslaughter.
This is 20 years before Bill Clinton's name popped up all over the Epstein files, with photos of him at hot tubs and at parties with girls with their faces blurred out, implicating them as possible victims. They were likely taken around the time the show aired, meaning he was very much active in Epstein's circle at the exact moment Norm was warning the public of what he was. And this View appearance was watched by millions, so the fact that he's this relentless tells you how much he wanted people to think about it. He answered a fake phone call from his producer to mess with the hosts.
You know Matt Strauss?
Yeah, the producer.
The producer, he told me it would be funny. He said, like, why don't you carry a cell phone on and then let it ring and then pretend like there's a guy on it.
And when they tried to move on to a different topic, he just kept steering it back.
I love.
There's no stopping you, is there?
No, you seem to like Bill Clinton.
They really, and this man leads into our show on Friday night.
I know.
It's all right, his career's over after this anyway, who cares?
The host had brought up Bill Cosby, and then Norm said this.
Bill Cosby is a great man, first of all. There has never been any accusations toward Bill Cosby about any...
Bear in mind, this was literally years before the Cosby scandal broke, so here he's way ahead of his time. Norm then later delivers the perfect joke about Cosby on comedians in cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld.
Now, do you think Cosby's legacy will be hurt?
Yeah.
You do, huh? I mean, there was a comedian, Patton Oswalt, he told me, I think the worst part of the Cosby thing was the hypocrisy. And I disagreed.
You disagree with that?
Yeah, I thought it was the right thing.
Norm was banned for 15 years after that first View appearance. He'd been ripping on the Clintons for years by this point, so it was kind of expected. He'd even roasted Bill for being a sexual predator to his face at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, an event originally meant to broker positive relationships between the president and the press.
The U.S. State Department, folks, has just issued a travel warning for all women moving past Dick Morris's table.
He attacked Clinton's fundraising scandals, casually implying the president was charging for everything.
Before I sip this coffee, actually, sir, how much is it? How much would a cup of coffee cost in a place like this? I didn't want to get, I didn't want to see $90,000 on my bill later. I thought this was kind of sad. I heard last night that President Clinton charged Abraham Lincoln's ghost $10,000 to sleep in his own bed.
He joked about the head of ABC News and the affairs everyone in the media knew about but wouldn't report on. The joke being that sleeping around was so normal at the network that sleeping with your own wife was the scandal.
There's a rumor that last week, a certain, I don't want to say who it is, a certain gentleman in ABC News, he went to a party and he got really drunk and he ended up having sex with his own wife.
He also pursued journalist Larry King, who was famous for marrying much younger women.
Table 10, wherever you are, table 10. We're sorry your waitress hasn't been there in a while. Larry King just married her.
Months later, the world found out about Clinton's affair with the White House intern Monica Lewinsky. Then there's the infamous painting of him in a blue dress found in Epstein's New York townhouse. The artist confirmed that the blue dress is a reference to Monica's blue dress, which was a central piece of evidence in Clinton's affair. Lewinsky's dress famously contained Clinton's DNA and was cited by lawmakers as proof he lied. Clinton appears in 3,584 documents, 63 flight logs, and 195 emails in the Epstein case files. Norm had his card marked while everyone kept their mouths shut, and we know the Monica controversy is simply a drop in the ocean. But before we continue, I want to tell you about our video sponsor Fume, because cravings aren't just about nicotine, they're about the habit, the hand-to-mouth motion, oral fixation, the momentary pause when that loop is broken and cravings spike. You see, fume replaces your habit with a flavored air fidget device that gives your hands and mouth something to do, distracting the cravings without nicotine, vapor, or even batteries. That way you don't just try to quit, you upgrade the habit loop and reach for fume instead. That's why anytime I just have any cravings, I can just grab a fume and start fidgeting with it. And then when I use it, it tastes amazing. Personally, my favorite flavor is the crisp mint one, which is the strongest flavor and best for heavy users. But the best thing about this is that the flavors are lighter and not as strong than vaping, so it's like flavored water is to soda, which makes it so simple and easy to use to replace your bad habits. So if you're ready to break your bad habits, now is a great time to try Fume. As right now, when you grab a journey pack, you'll get a free Fume topper for just using my code MOON. The Fume topper adds a soft replaceable chewable mouthpiece, giving your mouth something safe to chew when cravings hit. So grab this offer while it's available. Head to tryfume.com, that's tryfum.com, and use code MOON to get your free Fume topper with your journey pack. But this was one night of thousands. Norm did this every single week for years on Weekend Update, a new sketch in Saturday Night Live featuring headlines that were both lethal and uncannily prescient.
This weekend, veteran news anchorman David Brinkley apologized to Bill Clinton for an election night commentary in which he called the president, quote, boring and uncreative. Admitted Brinkley, there was certainly nothing uncreative about the way you moved Vince Foster's body.
The guy he was talking about, called Vince Foster, was a White House lawyer and close friend of the Clintons who was found dead in a park. The official ruling was that it was self-inflicted, but allegations surrounding the Clintons' involvement has never gone away. Norm leaned into it hard week after week.
Although the report does concede, Foster was deeply depressed because President Clinton was trying to murder him.
He crossed Clinton with OJ Simpson, who at the time was the most famous accused murderer in America, the implication being that Clinton wanted OJ to murder his wife.
Well, more OJ Simpson news. On Friday, the Juice officially endorsed Bill Clinton for president, adding, quote, I'd like to help him any way I can. To which the president replied, well, there is one thing.
Norm went after Hillary too, framing her as a compulsive liar around her claim she was named after the first Western mountaineer to summit Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary.
For years, Hillary Rodham Clinton has told people that she was named for the first man to climb Mount Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary. But as Esquire magazine recently pointed out, Sir Edmund did not climb Mount Everest until 1953, 6 years after Hillary was born. However, the First Lady does have a good explanation for the discrepancy. She loves to lie.
Andy had a whole running thread of jokes about Bill actively trying to get rid of her by sending her to space and leaving her there.
Astronaut Shannon Lucid, back on Earth after a record 6 months in space, was welcomed home Tuesday with a phone call from President Clinton. Said the president, quote, this is just the beginning. One day we'll be able to send an American into space indefinitely, and I hope it's a woman.
On Weekend Update, he had a desk and a script, and it was framed as comedy. On The View later on in his career, he said it out loud as himself on one of America's most obviously pro-establishment shows. But in both cases, he was exposing exactly how debauched and messed up the elites truly were, decades before the public understood the factual basis for his comments. That was a recurring theme over a remarkably consistent career that had many other high-profile targets. Michael Jackson got absolutely destroyed at a time when he was the most popular musical artist in the world.
This week in a secret ceremony in Australia, Michael Jackson was married for the second time. Asked what makes his new bride special, the King of Pop said, quote, she has taught me about the power of imagination, like imagining that a grown woman is a 10-year-old boy. You know he's a homosexual pedophile, right? You understand?
And there's this bit on Conan which deliberately blurred some boundaries and left Conan looking stunned.
And if it's a boy, he's going to have sex with it.
And the MJ jokes kept escalating until they couldn't get any more brutal if Norm tried.
He hangs out with young boys. He's a child molester, for God's sakes. Michael Jackson is a homosexual pedophile. He's already molested a one-day-old boy.
You can hear how the audience is split, some groaning, some nervous laughing, some finding it hilarious. Bear in mind, this was way before Jackson's criminal trial, decades before leaving Neverland. MJ's legal team was one of the most aggressive in the industry. Norm's boss at SNL, Lorne Michaels, kept on warning him about lawsuits. Norm honestly didn't care.
You want a lawsuit by Michael Jackson?
Oh, he's suggesting passive
and then I
aggressive.
go, that's cool. I like a I'm just answering his question. I go, that'd be cool, Michael Jackson suing me. And
Eventually, those Weekend Update roasting sessions became a comedy tradition that people learned to love. He outright just joked that Tom Cruise was gay without even needing a punchline.
In an interview in this month's Vanity Fair, actor Tom Cruise attempts to end once and for all rumors that he is gay.
Or there's this joke about Marlon Brando falling off the Hollywood wagon.
Last week on Larry King Live, Marlon Brando made the shocking statement that Hollywood is, quote, run by Jews. In response, outraged Jewish organizations made it snow in New York in April.
Norm deliberately mismatched his casual delivery with the severity of what he was saying. He just ducked and weaved his way out of trouble by using his tried and tested strategy of telling the truth with enough sarcasm to make anything appear marginal.
You can tell the truth, word for word, absolutely true. But when you do it, you use a sarcastic accent.
But he'd eventually make one enemy that would punish him in the most cowardly way possible. OJ Simpson was charged with murdering his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman in 1994. The trial became the most watched event in American television history, and despite what most people considered overwhelming evidence, he was acquitted. From his very first Weekend Update, Norm called OJ a murderer, and then he did it again and again for years across 60 consecutive shows.
OJ Simpson's lawyers say they don't want the families of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman in the courtroom during the trial. They're afraid the presence of the family members will just remind OJ of how much more killing he still has to do. Well, OJ Simpson's lawyers stopped feuding this week, finally. The Dream Team F. Lee Bailey and Robert Shapiro were able to put aside their differences and express their admiration for each other after OJ threatened to cut their heads off.
Never letting the public forget. The trial verdict was a cultural earthquake, and here's what Norm said the night of the acquittal to the cheers of the audience.
Well, it is finally official. Murder is legal in the state of California.
The jokes then get darker and more absurd as the trial faded from the news, but Norm never moved on.
In his book, OJ Simpson says that he would have taken a bullet or stood in front of a train for Nicole. Man, I'm going to tell you, that is some bad luck when the one guy who would have died for you kills you. This week in the OJ Simpson trial, after grisly photos of the murdered Nicole Brown Simpson were shown in court, OJ turned his head away and wept. It was at that moment that he realized he would never be able to kill her again. According to retailers, the most popular Halloween mask this year is OJ Simpson. And the most popular Halloween greeting is, I'll kill you and that guy who's bringing over your glasses, or treat.
He inserted OJ references into completely unrelated stories.
And the Pope came out with a book this week, which contains a series of essays examining faith and morality in today's secular world and the changing role of the Catholic Church as it approaches the 21st century. The book is entitled, God Himself Told Me That OJ is Guilty.
Every single week, no matter what the news was, he found a way to call OJ Simpson a murderer on national television. He even joked about OJ at the ESPYs.
And there's Charles Woodson. How about that? And what a season he had. That is something that no one can ever take away from you. Unless you kill your wife and a waiter, in which case...
But this whole time, the head of NBC's West Coast division was watching his every move. Because he was OJ Simpson's personal friend and golfing buddy. He allegedly threw a party for the jurors who acquitted Simpson, and he desperately wanted Norm to stop. Obviously, Norm wasn't planning on that anytime soon. So, he just fired him and removed him from the Weekend Update from the start of 1998. The official reason was declining ratings, but nobody bought it, and that same excuse has been used to fire many comedians from similar roles since then. The NBC executive also told Conan to stop booking Norm on late night, but Conan thankfully ignored him and kept booking Norm at least 25 more times. A year later, Norm was then rehired in pretty much the same career arc Shane Gillis followed years later, and his opening monologue was one for the ages.
How did I go in a year and a half from being not funny enough to be even allowed in the building to being so funny that I'm now hosting the show? How did I suddenly get so damn funny? It was inexplicable to me, because a year and a half, let's face it, is not enough time for a dude to learn how to be funny. Then it occurred to me, I haven't gotten funnier. The show has gotten really bad.
It was a classic industry U-turn where cancelling someone merely strengthened their resolve and popularity. Norm was still the best in the business and the best man for the job. But for all the people he went after, he was far from indiscriminate. He was painstakingly careful about whom he accused and what he accused them of, which means when he picked someone, there was a reason. In 2008, Comedy Central asked Norm to perform the roast of his close friend Bob Saget. So Norm called to discuss what he was going to do.
And he called me and he said, Saget, I can't say mean things about you. You're my friend. I don't even want to do it, but I'm going to do it because it's you.
Then Norm told Saget he was going to read jokes from a 1940s joke book. Saget told him to at least throw in an occasional cuss word, but Norm refused.
I'm just going to read jokes from a 40s joke book. And I said, Norm, that's fine. I mean, you know what you're doing, but you got to curse. I don't want to do that. I said, well, just throw in an arbitrary fuck. Nah, I'm not going to do that.
So you've got a room full of professional comedians delivering the filthiest, most personal attacks they can think of, and then Norm gets up and cracks jokes like this.
No, but Bob has a beautiful face, like a flower. Yeah, cauliflower. No offense, but your face looks like a cauliflower. No, I think that Bob should join the Ku Klux Klan. And that's not because he's racist. He's not racist. It's just that he'd look a lot better with a hood over his head on account of his face.
Half the room didn't know what was happening, the other half were in tears. And then at the very end, Norm got suddenly emotional.
Bob, honestly, has never had an unkind word for anybody, and I love him, and I hope everybody else does. So.
Saget later said Norm basically didn't enjoy the roast format, which is ironic at first impression, but makes complete sense when you consider that roasting people without cause is just meaningless. The last thing Norm's comedy was meaningless, and that wasn't his style. So he made the very conscious decision to roast the roast.
Because he didn't want to hurt his friend, and also he didn't want to do a roast. He didn't love the form.
He was the master of playing on these kinds of contradictions, including probably his most famous joke when he told Conan he was a deeply closeted gay man who also wasn't gay.
The thing that nobody knows about me is I'm a deeply closeted gay man.
What? I mean, that's, you're a gay man?
I'm not gay. I said I'm deeply closeted.
What?
I'm as straight as an arrow.
So you're a gay man who won't admit it?
No. Do you know what deeply closeted means?
Yeah.
It means a man who will not acknowledge that he's gay.
Yes.
The joke is a perfect loop that confuses Conan, confuses the audience, and technically never says anything at all. That was late era Norm, where his jokes sometimes had a distinctly intellectual and sometimes introspective tinge. He'd always deliberately hidden how smart he really was, having moved up 2 grades as a kid and studying mathematics and philosophy at university at the age of 16. He'd also hidden the fact he'd privately been battling cancer for years and told almost nobody.
Well, I didn't know, but everyone else must have known. And then Jim Downey called me and said, you know, more or less, Conan, fuck you for not telling me about Norm. And I said, Jim, I didn't know. And Jim Downey said,
I would think Downey might know.
No, Jim didn't know.
Yeah,
did you know?
I did not know.
I think 2 things about it, and they're diametrically opposed. One is I wish I had known because I would have told him what he meant to me.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side, which is great respect for him wanting to keep it private.
Yeah.
And him not wanting people to treat him any differently because he was sick.
3 years before he died in 2021, he went on The View again to essentially apologize for blundering over the Me Too movement. Norm said he was glad it had slowed down a bit after the sexual misconduct controversy with Louis C.K., and The Tonight Show cancelled his appearance as a result. Norm first went on The Howard Stern to explain himself and made it worse, saying, quote, "You'd have to have Down syndrome to not feel sorry for the victims." That View appearance was a stroke of genius encoded in Norm's comedy. He sat awkwardly popping Tic Tacs while the host walked him through his mistakes one by one. Every time he said something supposedly sincere, you can watch him pop another mint as a clue that his heart was not in this interaction even if his head was.
It's always bad when you have to apologize
for the apology.
An apology. And stupidly, I was about to say that word, and I stopped and said, what's the right word to say? And then I said a different word that was equally. I realized at that moment that I'd done something unforgivable.
They tried to confirm this humiliation attempt was working as intended.
Now are you thinking twice before everything comes out of your mouth?
Then he said something that sounds like a throwaway line but isn't.
What's offensive is anything over the line, and I personally think almost everything is over the line.
By that, he's saying everyone is offended by everything, yet somehow no one picked up on it. But this last line is the real tell, given that Norm spent years outing criminals before getting hauled in for a backfiring joke.
Yeah, I have been surprised because, you know, I never did anything. I mean, I spoke, but I mean, I don't want to be tossed in with people that actually did, not crimes, but sins, or, you know, I barely have consensual sex.
He waited until they were satisfied he'd served them enough remorse, then slipped in a last-minute jab at the end. It was basically the proverbial middle finger to the whole fake operation. The industry never gave him the career his talent deserved. Norm never got his own late-night show, which Weekend Update was supposed to be the stepping stone towards. His sitcom lasted 3 years and vanished. He was touring 44 weeks a year into his late 50s because he couldn't afford to stop. That's another reason he went where no one else dared, because as he claimed, he had little to lose. He was a compulsive gambler who lost everything multiple times over and wasn't materialistic in the slightest. He once joked that someone tried to sell him a guard dog to protect his valuables, but the dog would actually become his most valuable possession.
This guy wanted to sell me a dog in the store. It was $600, this dog. Can you believe it? $600 for a dog? Oh, man. I was looking to pay, you know, a buck. I just wanted a bargain dog, a nice discount dog, a cheap, off-the-rack kind of dog, any kind of, show me to your bin of dogs, my good man, I said to the guy. But this guy says, no, he says, why don't you buy this dog? He says, it's $600, this dog, but he says, this dog is a pit bull. He says, this dog will protect your valuables. You know? And I don't even have anything very valuable, you know. I buy the pit bull, that would be the most valuable thing I have. I'd have to buy something to protect it then, you know. I'd be out shopping for wolverines the next day there. Show me something in a timber wolf if you could.
If anything, the sicker he became, the more relaxed he seemed, and he kept up his sharp commentary on current affairs rather than retreating into the background. When Epstein was found dead in his cell, Norm posted a single tweet that cut to the very core of the entire topic. A man is a coin, no observe without reverse. If you like, remember Jeff Epstein as a monster, destroying lives with wicked nonchalance. But for me, I will remember him as the man who killed Jeff Epstein. You have to think about that last line again where he says the man who killed Jeff Epstein. Norm is saying Epstein killed himself, but by framing it as something Epstein did to Epstein, he's making the death sound like a hit. Either Epstein killed himself and that's suspicious, or someone else killed him and it was covered up, which elegantly covers both bases. Before that more famous post, he posted something more to the point like his earlier style of comedy, saying Epstein was point blank murdered by his powerful friends. Considered that was his gut instinct and not a widely held view at the time, and when Norm had a gut instinct, he usually was right. Hey, did Jeffrey Epstein commit S? Was he on S watch? Impossible. Was he murdered by his rich and powerful friends? At the same time, he also kept on defending others from the industry's injustices. When Shane Gillis was hired and then publicly fired from Saturday Night Live in 2019, Norm was among the very few in the industry to speak out. With the media labeling him as a bigot, Norm picked up the phone and talked to him for an hour.
Norm Macdonald was a cool one.
Really?
Yeah, that was a cool one. I talked to him for like an hour.
No!
On the phone, yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy. He's another guy that's exactly who you think he is, you know?
2 years after that phone call, Norm called it a draw with cancer after 9 years.
I'm pretty sure if the cancer dies, I mean, if you die, the cancer also dies at exactly the same time. So that, to me, is not a loss, that's a draw.
His legacy has only created more supporters for the very fact that it's going out of fashion. Every time another scandal breaks, everyone looks back at a time when influential comedians like Norm would go straight for the jugular regardless of the consequences. The question of why exactly he hounded powerful people doesn't have a single clear answer because he deliberately obscured his own motivations. He professed to not know or care about politics.
People had very strong opinions on the election. You know, some people had very strong opinions one way, and other people had strong opinions the other way. And I didn't have any opinions at all. I don't have really any opinions on anything. Like, you ever watch the CNN, and they'll have the polls, you know, and it'll be like, what do you think about embryonic stem cell research? And then it'll be like, see, there you go. It'll be like 52% yes,
46%? No. 6%? I don't know. See? And that's me. I don't know. So I phone up to CNN, you know, and I go, hey, listen, is this the TV? Yeah, that question you asked about the embryonic stem cell research? I don't know.
What he cared about was the corrupt human impulses that lie beneath the whole act, why people lie, who they protect, and what they'll tolerate to uphold certain ideals. There's now a whole class of people doing exactly what Norm was criticizing throughout his career. When Conan made this joke in his 2026 Oscars opening monologue, the reaction was colder than ever, and the elites hated it, even though he didn't call anyone out by name.
Well, at least we arrest our pedophiles.
He hits on a key point that describes something that has happened since Norm's younger days. Comedy has entered a new era where the source material is more extreme than ever. MJ, Cosby, the Clintons, and OJ all seem like outliers at the time, but we now know they're definitely not, and the structure is much deeper than a few creepy individuals. Dismantling it, whatever it really is, has become impossible. We're also less shocked because we're desensitized. Conventionally, art is supposed to get more extreme as time goes on. Hitchcock's Psycho left people throwing up at the shower scene in 1960. Now, kids watch gory Netflix horrors while eating dinner. Modern culture is headed towards some permanent state of maximalism where everything is more exaggerated, more dramatic, and the threshold for a reaction is higher than ever. A case like Epstein would have shattered the tone of public life for years in Norm's era, but today it's merely blurring into the ambient noise. Maybe that's why he still feels alive. He was operating in a culture that still had the capacity to be stunned by scandal, and he knew exactly how to play on that emotion. Now the scandals are more sinister, the evidence is available yet redacted, and the reaction paradoxically flattens because of how desensitized society has become. As Conan said himself in his Norm obituary, bravery means tremendous risk, and often loss. Norm was highly principled and he paid dearly for his refusal to compromise. At least the few risk-taking comedians there are left, like Shane, Conan, and Ricky Gervais, have Norm's jokes to look back on.